This skill involves recognizing and explaining how students' cultural backgrounds influence their academic engagement, social interactions, and learning preferences, thereby fostering a more inclusive study environment. In today's increasingly multicultural classrooms, this skill is essential for creating learning environments that are inclusive, respectful, and empowering for all students. As a lecturer, developing cultural awareness is not just about knowing that your students are different, it's about recognizing how those differences shape learning. Having this skill means that you should be able to observe students' verbal and nonverbal communication styles. Identify how culture influences participation, collaboration, and attitudes to authority. Use culturally sensitive language while avoiding stereotypes. Adapt explanations and instructions to different cultural expectations. Reflect on your own biases to ensure fairness. Let's take a closer look at what this means in everyday teaching practice. Ask yourself, am I aware of the communication styles my students bring into the classroom? Do I adapt my teaching to their cultural expectations and experiences? Cultural awareness isn't static, it's a skill you refine through observation, reflection, and adaptation. The first step? Learning to spot cultural cues in communication, learning styles, and classroom behavior. Next, we'll explore how frameworks like Hofstede's and Hall's help you interpret cultural behaviors and apply that knowledge in real classroom scenarios. To guide our understanding, we'll explore two powerful frameworks: Hofstede's cultural dimensions theory, Edward Hall's theory of high and low context communication. These models are not fixed rules, but useful tools for reflection and adaptation. Hofstede identified 6 dimensions that influence how people behave and learn: power distance, acceptance of inequality and hierarchy, uncertainty avoidance, tolerance for ambiguity and risk, individualism versus collectivism, focus on self versus group, masculinity versus femininity, emphasis on competition or cooperation, long-term versus short-term orientation, future planning versus tradition, indulgence versus restraint, free expression versus regulation of desires. Let's look at a few examples. In high-power distance cultures, students may expect formal relationships with their lecturers. They may hesitate to challenge authority or speak up in class. In contrast, students from low-power distance cultures may feel comfortable questioning you, participating spontaneously, and expecting equal dialogue. Students from collectivist cultures often value group work and may rely on the teacher for direction. Individuals from cultures that value individualism may prefer independent tasks and expect to express their opinions freely. Your classroom may include both, so adapting your activities to suit diverse expectations is key. It's important to remember that cultures are not fixed categories. For example, both collectivist and individualist tendencies can coexist within a single society, depending on an individual's socio-economic background, education, or context. These complexities remind us that cultural generalizations should be handled with care and always contextualized. Complementing Hofstede's model, Edward Hall's theory of high and low context communication explains how cultures differ in the way they convey meaning. In high-context cultures, such as Japan and China, communication relies on nonverbal cues, shared understanding, and indirect speech. A student may express disagreement through silence or hesitation rather than direct refusal. In contrast, low-context cultures, such as the US or Germany, value direct, explicit language. Students are encouraged to speak openly and challenge ideas. Recognizing these differences helps lecturers avoid misinterpreting communication styles as disengagement or disrespect. But no culture is entirely high or low context. Communication styles shift depending on relationships, setting, and social norms. In today's globalized, digital world, culture intersects with gender, age, language ability, and personal experience. Scholars like John Kerwer-Tum Kollé encourage educators to use Hofstede's model as a flexible tool rather than a rigid framework. A more inclusive approach recognizes that identity is evolving and contextual. Lecturers should reflect critically on how cultural frameworks shape, but do not define, student behaviors. Now we invite you to the quiz section where you can test your knowledge by answering 3 questions. Tick the correct answer. Whether you chose right or wrong, you will be given an explanation for the answer. Here we go.